I want to hear your thoughts. I want you to bestow me your thoughts here.
Well, you threw me under the bus with the rest. Not that I care what their opinion is, but the rest of the DSG was like, seeing my grade.
Well, that's just part of the shtick. That's part of you being the beta alpha of the group here.
I guess so, whatever that means. But Goose,
you know what it means.
Goo.
You came up with it. You came up with that term, right?
There's I think something, maybe. But Goo was like, oh, I knew Fryer was going to like that movie. Yeah, Goo, I am going to like that movie. And I'm not going to apologize about it at all. And Joe, I didn't know this. Joe has not seen the first Venom movie. I was blown away by that.
Yeah, you think he would have, but again, that's not like appointment viewing. It's not necessarily must-see TV. And this certainly wasn't.
Yeah, I got before we go, I don't want to say too much about our grades before we get to that point. But I am surprised that your grade is lower than I'm surprised that your grade is lower than the first one.
Yeah, this is just very disappointing overall. What I will say though is, in that same group chat, I realized I'm a sucker in DraftKings. Like, I get excited when I win $11, and these guys are talking about winning like $600, $650. Like, do you ever partake in any of that high stakes DFS and fantasy life?
So there's stuff within the company that we can do. I have not taken part in it, but
prior to your
no, not that. I mean, I've done stuff and I've done pretty well, but like nothing like crazy high stakes. Like there are some contests, Wes, that are like $888 or something like that, and it's just like I'm not. Hey, I like having some action. Don't get me wrong, but that's ridiculous.
All I do is like 2 or 3 tournaments, one for the 1 o'clocks, one for the early games, and then maybe like the Sunday night multiplier and all flex, like the captain one, whatever that is.
Showdowns,
yeah, there we go, yeah, that one. And again, I get very excited when I'm in like 500 out of 19,000 or something like that. I'm like, oh
yeah,
awesome. Well, that's great. And then I'm like, I look over here, I'm like, you guys are fucking killing it.
Well, I don't know how big the contest is like that Billy would necessarily be because it's the same situation as me. But Mac does well, I guess, and I think Joe's on a similar had the similar thing. But dude, they're tough. I mean, you just anytime you're getting money, I think that you're doing fine. That's why I'm more of
all I want to do is just stay interested. Keep me interested in the red zone and everything like that. That's all.
That's why I'm more interested in the sports book because it's you versus the book. That's it. You're either right or you're wrong. There's no in between. That's how I like it. Unless there's a push, of course.
Of course. But a push is a win, though. You win.
I guess, yeah. I mean, I don't count that towards a win on my record, but yeah, it's.
But in reality, right.
Yeah, you didn't lose.
When you're keeping tabs, yeah, the house didn't win.
Yes, it's better than a tie. We'll say that. Yeah, it's a little bit better than that. But
yeah, I would absolutely say that you get your money back at that point. It's almost like you won money because you had already given up your money at that point.
Mm-hmm. Very true. Yeah, I gotta do stuff for the Sox Yankees game tomorrow because
that'll be very fun stuff, right? I mean, who even knew the Red Sox were in a playoff hunt? I feel like no one even cares.
I care. I knew they were in a playoff hunt.
You know what I mean? They're like, where's the buzz? Where's the buzz for all that?
Yeah, well, I think that everybody it's very easy to check out on the Red Sox these days. I mean, you saw what happened with I don't know if you saw the jersey sale stuff, but the Red Sox don't have anybody in the top 20, and then the number one guy for jersey sales this year, Mookie Betts. So that's just a terrible.
Wait, Mookie Betts was number 1 in jersey sales?
And the Red Sox don't have a single guy in the top 20.
Wow. Yeah, well, they don't have anyone that's really super marketable. I love Raffy Devers, but I mean,
it's just you got rid of the best player in baseball, or one of the best players in baseball. Sorry, Mike Trout, no disrespect, but yeah, I hate that so much. That I'll never get over that deal, and especially because of what happened, the way that whole thing went that night, so annoying. They were there for like 3 hours at Fort Myers, like sitting out getting eaten alive by bugs, and then write that shit up. Wrote a scathing column the next day, and you bet that there was other reasons behind that other than the actual trade being stupid.
You don't want to piss off Nick Fryer.
Yeah.
Big J journalist in the house. I love it. I love it here.
Yeah.
Well,
okay, I'm ready.
But I have I won my money back ipso facto. I put in $11. I won my $11. It's a push, as we say, but I think that's a win.
Yes. Yeah. We deciphered. It's a win. We came together. It's official. Man law.
All right, beautiful. Let's get started here. We're closing in on 5 minutes in. I don't have an opening though, so we'll just wing it again. How about that?
That always sounds good to me.
Let's see here. Fuck. Okay. 3, 2, 1. I am Wesley Sykes, and through the other side of the ether is the Sonny to my share, Mr. Nicholas J. X Fryer, Lethal Protector for Hire.
You may not have had an opening today, but I don't understand how you continue to find things that rhyme with higher. It's relevant to what we're doing. That's more impressive than anything.
Fryer rhymes with hire. I just placed the name, replaced the name everywhere.
I mean, on top of that, you keep finding something before hire that also rhymes. That's what I mean. Yes, I know fryer and hire rhymes. I understand that.
Yeah, but Lethal Protector for hire doesn't rhyme.
Oh shit, you're right. I'm an idiot. Wow, that's already described. Hot start right at the fucking gates.
Right off the start here. And this week, I regret to inform you, Nick does not, that we will be conducting an exit survey of Venom 2. Let There Be Carnage, starring Tom Hardy. But Nick, before that, the burning question everyone is asking, Nick, what would you do without Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, maybe even Gmail, as we saw as the internet kind of went down today?
Gmail was down too. I didn't realize that one.
I was seeing Gmail trending on Twitter, and I think it wasn't. None of that stuff was really down for me. I don't really use Instagram or Facebook.
Yeah, I only go on Instagram. I mean, I don't really use Instagram like that. I go on occasionally. Obviously, TLDR has an account and everything there. But yeah, I mean, what do I do without it? I just continue on with my life. I would occasionally check Instagram normally, I guess, and Facebook, but I don't really need that stuff. I have the stuff because of work, and that's it. Otherwise, I would not have any of those things. I don't get why people who aren't in our field have them, generally speaking.
Yeah, Instagram, no thank you. I'm not single anymore. I don't need any of that stuff, really, so I don't really use that unless I kind of pick up my photography habit here. Maybe that's really what I'll use that for. But Facebook, again, only for work, exclusively for work. I would delete it, and just like you, I would delete everything if that was the case. Although Twitter is kind of my dirty little secret. I kind of love it, even though I hate it.
Really? I did not know that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, look, we all have our thing. I like Instagram. Like, if I was to keep one of them, it would be Instagram, because I just think good pictures, it's worth 1,000 words, some say. And I like seeing comic book art over there. That's why I had it.
So you're a big boobs guy.
Wow, that's not at all what I was going for. But I guess that's the way today's going to be.
I was reading between the lines there.
Sure, yeah. I guess if you looked at TLDR's history, if you go into search, maybe that would be the things that show up. I don't know, but Joe
I
also
look
has
at all the bots that follow you that says sexy live singles available.
Yes, well, I blame Joe for that more so than me.
Yeah, that seems to line up. Are you a WhatsApp guy?
I think I've only used WhatsApp when my mom has gone overseas, and that's the only other reason. And my brother, that's the only reason. I don't know why else do people use WhatsApp?
I don't know. I think it's a big European thing. So I think people who come from overseas, use that a lot. But I think it's a free messaging app.
Yeah, it's like texting.
If you're on a minutes plan or something, a data plan or something like that, maybe.
Oh, that explains it. That explains why so many people think because
Boost Mobile.
Yes. Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
Those lines. Metro PCS.
Yeah. Otherwise, it wouldn't make any sense at all. So, okay, that makes a lot more sense. Otherwise, yeah. Okay. Now I get it.
It did make sense. It was very satisfying, Nick. Much more satisfying than I thought of Venom 2. What if Season 1, Episode 8? What if Ultron won?
That was awesome. That was awesome. That was. I would say. That's the best episode I think we've gotten so far. Period.
Yeah.
I loved.
I had it tied with the what if the Avengers never formed. But I agree. I think those are my two favorite ones. Tied for me.
Is that the one with Pym you're talking about?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. That one was outstanding. Oh, that one was so fucking good. There were a few that I didn't love so far, but I would say there was actually only one that I didn't love. Or didn't like, I guess. But even then, I don't think we've gotten many bad ones. I know you've been more of a mixed bag, on this one. But now this one made the Strange episode significantly more important, and now we're kind of seeing how it connects to the MCU at large. So I'm very excited to see what they can do now again with Ultron and all this.
Yeah, this seems very cool. And again, we see Tony Stark getting killed in seemingly every episode here. He's what I said on my other podcast. What if we talked about Marvel's What If? Would you listen? A Marvel What If podcast.
Well done.
He's becoming kind of like the Kenny, from South Park of this What If universe here, just dying every time.
It's a great call.
But what I also kind of enjoyed about this too is that they're nerfing Thanos. Well, I shouldn't say I enjoy it. I find it kind of a rewriting of history, if you will.
Sure. I mean, but you think about it. Like Ultron was already was maniacal and extremely powerful, and then he goes and gets this body that's supposed to be like Vision had like a soul. As much as he didn't, because he's a robot. He had a soul.
Thanos had 5 out of the 6 Infinity Stones.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. But now we see how powerful the Mind Stone was and how little everybody knew about the Mind Stone.
That's weak. That's weak sauce. I think it's just again, it's just nerfing, rewriting of history. We spent like 10 years building up to Thanos, and then how quickly they're like, this guy sucks.
Sure, they act like he sucks, but at the same time, it's like I would have much rather deal with Thanos at this point now, because now we see what happens when you put Ultron's brain in Vision's body. Everybody gets fucking roasted. Also, an underrated thing is it's getting all the hype because of what it means for the MCU at large. But I loved the action with Hawkeye and Black Widow. I thought they did an awesome job with that too.
Well, the interesting thing, my 2 favorite episodes, I think they were the lead characters in both episodes, right? Or at least Natasha was.
Natasha was, yes. She was awesome. Like her action, the best MCU action we've seen from Natasha has been in What If.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah, I that's my take on it. Yep, absolutely.
Wow, very, very hot take. You're just scorching them, sending them left and right like you're back in the Northwestern bump here.
Oh yeah, exactly. And then that means I'm going to get whiplash in a little bit. So. Oh
boy. So episode 9 coming with the season finale here. Of course, not the series finale. It's already been rebooted for season 2. We have what is it? The multiverse, the Guardians of the Multiverse, I think is the episode that we're going to be seeing. Of course, this is going to be somewhat of a continuation episode. I think you're going to be seeing your T'Challa Star-Lords, your Party Thors, everybody from the previous ones, your Captain Carters, all kind of coming together to kick some Ultron ass.
Right. And that's cool. If that ends up being the case, I would love to see that. But I also wouldn't hate it if Ultron kicks all of their ass too, and then we somehow see Ultron again in the MCU, because that's a character who just totally got underutilized. But I think we now know that'll be great if that happens. I think Ultron will end up being defeated, and we're going to see a certain somebody exploit all of this for his betterment, and then we're going to see him in maybe a live action movie at some point. I think that's what's going to happen.
Someone you think who Dr. Doom?
I was going to say a rather odd fellow who also might be a doctor. I think that's the person we're going to end up seeing, because that was you that pointed that out first. Who maybe the guy, the Doctor Strange that we see winking isn't the Doctor Strange we're used to seeing.
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah. In No Way Home.
Yes. So you brought that up when we first saw him. We first saw this new alternate universe Doctor Strange, who's now hidden, and held captive. Well, then we go and see him talk to Uatu afterwards, and now he's going to help the situation. So while all of this chaos is going on, I would assume we're going to see him at some point kind of sneak off, or at the end of it, they're going to say, "Wait, where's Strange?" And then he's going to be in the correct, our multiverse.
I love it. I like that. I like that a lot here. Okay. All right. I'm picking up what you're putting down here. Let's move forward here with some box office news, of course, coming from the Twitter handle at Discussing Film, but it's pretty much anywhere at this point. We have Shang-Chi becoming the first post-pandemic film to gross $200 million at the domestic box office, Nick. Not really a surprise there. I think everyone kind of expected this to be a box office blockbuster.
Yes, but I think when you look at the 3 Marvel movies, Venom being one of them, I think that was it the opening night that we saw that Shang-Chi had the worst of the 3, or the opening weekend. I can't remember exactly what it was, but Shang-Chi had the worst of the 3 of these.
Start.
Yeah, it was a little surprising, because I thought there was we were both very excited for this, and we were not let down by that movie at all. And I just thought there was a ton of buzz, but maybe it was just too early in the pandemic. People are still kind of getting used to going out and seeing the movies. But yeah, this is absolutely deserved.
Love it. And then we have No Time to Die, which is estimated to earn $113 million in international box office opening weekend, which would become, this is kind of like a weird stat here. This is like a Tim Kirchin stat. It's the first Hollywood movie to have $100+ million opening weekend internationally without China.
Okay.
A lot of qualifiers.
They got some shit going on over there, huh? Because they just don't want to show anybody stuff from anything from here anymore.
Yeah, they got 1 billion people, right? That's
Well, no, I get that, but I mean, just in general, like, because they didn't show Shang-Chi, if I'm not mistaken, or they pulled Shang-Chi or something like that. Because
I think the actors have again, it was kind of like a thing that they said things that on the record that haven't been,
yeah,
didn't jive with what the China, whatever they agree with.
yeah. So I mean, that's generally how it works. We saw what happened with the NBA, right? So that's just going to
Yeah,
lead to
the
some.
NBA. Like I always like to mention John Cena, all that good stuff.
I didn't know what John Cena did, but I'll take your word for it on that one.
We talked about this all the time on his apology.
Oh, yeah,
The
that.
Fast and the Furious, yeah.
Yes. Sorry, that's well.
Oh,
Anyways,
yeah, all the time.
all the time. Yes, who could forget? Of course, apparently me.
Not me.
All right, now we move over to the comic book minute because it's a thin week in news for us.
Yeah, it's inside.
Yeah, but we got a lot to talk about with our main topic. And with the comic book minute, quite a few things coming out this week that I did want to highlight. So a little bit longer than usual. Comixology, you guys have probably been hearing a lot about. Scott Snyder's got this big plan for 8 comics that he's going to be having come out on Comixology first. Then they're going to be hitting the stores. I'm not sure when they're hitting the stores, but if you have Comixology Unlimited, you're going to have access to all these 8 books. The first one is going to be Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo's We Have Demons. Issue 1 comes out this week. And I mean, This I'm very excited for. This is the top book we think going into this, Joe and I think at least. So they're going to be double issues. This looks like it's going to be 2 issues, like double size issue the first month, and then in November we're going to get another double size issue. So I think it's only going to be 4 issues. Not sure how the second arc's going to work or if there's going to be a second arc, but Snyder and Capullo together, it's a must read. From Dark Horse, we have Lucky Devil issue 3 this week. Very excited for this. This is Cullen Bunn, friend of TLDR. We've had him on a couple times. Mm-hmm. This is his best. This and The Last Book You'll Ever Read, issue 3. Those are his 2 best books right now. He's got quite a few good indie titles going on.
2 great buns in the oven.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know which one I'm more excited about this week, but they've both been outstanding. AWA has a start of Out. It is the first issue. This is Nazis and zombies. Nazis and vampires. So I'm excited about that.
No zombies.
Yes, no zombies as far as I know, but it's just, I guess, COD and everything, right?
Yeah.
As for DC and Marvel, the top titles from them this week, DC has the start of the series Arkham City, The Order of the World. Looks like Joker's going to be involved in that, and then we're going to have escaped Arkham patients involved in all this too. And then Marvel, Deadpool, Black, White, and Blood, issue 3.
I like that. That's a nice title. Let's get my attention there.
Yeah, those have been really good. They did it with Carnage. They did it with, they're just short little anthologies. They did it with Wolverine. They're going to do it with Elektra too. So I'm all in on any of these with any of the Marvel characters. They do it with DC, but I haven't invested in those. But for TLDR this week, we're actually having our first omnibus. This is our 50th mainline episode. Of course, we've had a lot of solicits mixed in, and then guests. But for our mainline stuff, it's our 50th episode. So what we're going to do is we're going to be talking. We're going to go through quite a few books that Joe and I have recommended to one another in the past that the other has gone and read. So no new book, but reflecting on a lot of the books that quite a few of the books that we've recommended to one another.
It's like a clip show.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I would say something like that. So very excited for that.
And it's of course October or Dorktober
or
Dorktober 4. Jason Rossi Lives. Is that what that is?
Yeah,
6. The Roman numerals, that always, flip.
Oh yeah,
real quick on me. But what's TLDR's involvement with that moving forward?
So we did a ranking with Dork for the best horror comics of all time, and Joe and I have already set our lists. And it was there were a couple books that Joe and I recommended, 2 that Joe had talked about on the show that were both high on our list, and I don't think Keith had read them yet, so he's given those a peek right now to see if they fit on his list because they're absolute knockouts. So that's going to be a micro Dork. I think that's coming out next week. I'm not certain, but it sounds like we're going to be recording that. But I'm very excited. I'll have a couple horror books to talk about this week. And we may or may not have some interviews sprinkled in throughout the month too that are Dorktober related. So very excited for those too.
Keep an eye out for that. Of course, the hashtag Dork Podcast, the podfather of this podcast.
Yes.
Some might say, but with that said, what do you say we get to the main topic here?
I'm very excited for this. I think a lot of people have different opinions for me on this one, but Wes, tell the people what we're talking about today.
Yes, we're talking about Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage, and it is, for those who don't know, Eddie Brock, who attempts to reignite his career by interviewing serial killer Cletus Cassidy, who becomes the host of the symbiote Carnage and escapes prison after a failed execution.
The cast and crew on this, this is written by Kelly Marcel and Tom Hardy, directed by Andy Serkis, also known as Gollum, starring Tom Hardy, Woody Harrelson, Michelle Williams, Naomi Harris, Reed Scott, Stephen Graham, and Peggy Lou.
Reed Scott, he's really coming in swinging a big stick here. He has a high slugging percentage, as some might say.
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, yes, definitely an improvement from last.
The glorious return of Dr. Dan here. Some might say he was getting his flowers. I liked how they leaned into him. He was like one of the few bright spots in the movie for me. But despite my dismay for this movie or disappointment, the box office and critics' reception has been pretty solid. It earned $37.25 million at the domestic box office on opening night. That's Thursday night included as well. Total $90 million for the domestic weekend. It's rocking a 6.7 out of 10 on IMDb with a 59-86 split. That's like a you and me split almost, Nick.
Yes, sir.
On Rotten Tomatoes with a 4.35 on Google reviews, while 79% of Google users liked this movie.
Now, before we get into our scores and tweet length reviews, I just want to comment on those ratings. The fact that I'm seeing the audience split on Rotten Tomatoes, where I see the audience land on this, does not surprise me. And then when I look at IMDb at the same time, that also does not surprise me, because I would think when you're looking at it from strictly a critical perspective, there are definitely holes to knock these movies, because I feel that anytime you're dealing with comedy or a superhero movie, you're usually exposing yourself to serious criticism from serious critics. I think 59 is over the top. But again, we've said before, Rotten Tomatoes sucks, and we're talking about the critics when it comes down to that.
I agree. I agree with Rotten Tomatoes on this one, though. But before even the score and tweet length review, if I may jump a question here, what was your theater experience like?
Oh, actually, this is a funny little story. You know how when you ever go to whether baseball, basketball game or whatever, right, you try and upgrade your seats every once in a while.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes. So Lauren and I ended up doing that, and I was paranoid the entire time because I go to a Red Sox game. I don't care about that.
Where'd you go see it? Were you up by her or down?
Yeah, we were up in Somerville, and there were the way they had this theater was set up. Just the time worked best for us. The seats in the middle were all regular seats, no recliners. But then on the edges, you had two seats that were recliners. Like it was like for each row or every other row, something to that effect. So it was like their own little boxes. So we ended up going all the way up to the top right, and there was nobody there. So the entire time, though, I'm like making sure nobody's going to show up or whatever, because at a
assigned seating, yeah,
right.
It's embarrassing.
At a Red Sox game, I don't care. That's what you do. It's a sporting event. Who cares? Maybe you can't do that at a Patriots game. I don't know, but Red Sox, whatever. At a movie theater, it just feels like frowned upon. It's just not what you do.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah,
but we did it.
Setting.
We pulled it off, so it worked out really well.
All right, so it was a good. So that's like the reserved seating, the recline back. Do you get maybe an alcoholic beverage at these establishments?
You can unless you have to drive. But yes, you absolutely can. We've done that before.
Well, you can also you can have a drink responsibly, and then get in a car. Then
sure. But that would entail.
No one's saying you got to drink till your gills get filled.
That would require me being responsible, and we all know how that's going to go. But how is it for you?
Oh, Nick, something tells me you're a very responsible individual.
Maybe I don't know. But how was your experience?
I would trust you, Nick.
Thank you.
So my theater experience, it was a little different. So I went to Flagship Theaters in Wareham, right down the street for me. But again, assigned seating, a bottom on line, no problem. But everything was filled. So I was 3 rows from the front. Saturday night, 7:00 showing. So I get there and there's 4 12-year-olds, one spot, and then another 12-year-old. And I'm sandwiched between all these preteens.
Oh boy.
And I'm walking in, I look at them and I'm well, I guess I'm right here. And they're like, what up? I'm
oh my shit.
And they had a great time. Their shoes were kicked off. They were all buzzing off of sugar, all the candy that they had and everything.
There's no way you can have an enjoyable experience being surrounded by that.
So I wasn't, and I was also again 3 rows from the front. So the movie, got this confirmed through Goo. The sound was very loud, and I thought that it was just me being so close to the screen, but that was also affected my theater experience. The audio did not match; it was too loud for me.
So I'm curious, why don't you give us your score then first? I'd like to know how much you took off for the sound, because you definitely it felt my
No,
chair
it wasn't
shake.
that much, but looking back, it just didn't help it at all. It didn't enhance the experience.
Okay.
But I did have fairly low expectations coming into this movie, and this movie was still mostly horseshit. They border on the cusp of something interesting a few times, like a storyline, particularly with Carnage. But they never go anywhere near that at all. This felt even more rushed than the 97-minute runtime suggests, which just left me wondering, particularly even after the mid-credit scene, was why was this movie made? 68 out of 100. This might be one of my lowest rated movies since like Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge.
I think it's your lowest one since that. I don't think there's anything even. I don't know if you've given anything a 60 since Mortal Kombat Scorpion Revenge, which you gave, I think, was a 44, if I remember that correctly.
I thought it was in the 50s. Maybe it was in the 40s. I don't know.
Yeah. Either way, it was really
a hot take. But
well, at the end of it, Wes, like I can understand why you didn't like Mortal Kombat Scorpion's Revenge because of the animation, right? Because that's something that's going to take you out of it.
For me.
Exactly. So there's that. And then when you look at that movie, it's supposed to be just nonstop action, right? There's a story around it, but like it's more about just seeing these characters in a setting where they can just go nuts and we're not controlling them on a video game. Which, by the way, I did get to test out the latest Mortal Kombat finally recently. You can rent it at a library. Had no clue. And
really?
Yeah, freaking outstanding. That game was awesome. I'm not gonna go buy it because I just don't buy video games much anymore. But I did enjoy that a lot. Now. So I understand your grade because of that when it comes to Carnage as well. Let There Be Carnage, because this is a lot of action. This movie, it's, I would say, first thing, nonstop action. And we finally get
good action.
We finally got the live action version of one of the best Marvel villains there is, too. Very excited to finally see Carnage on the big screen. Also, one of the best end/mid-credit scenes in a Marvel movie ever. And because of that, I gave it 3 extra points on top of my original score. I was going to go with an 84, but I landed on an 87.
Why did we even need, if this, like, again, we talk about this all the time. If the best part of the movie is the end credit scene, which is what anyone was talking about this, you go to watch on the YouTube reviews and everything like that. It's no one's breaking down the actual movie and what it means and all that stuff. Like everyone's just going straight to the end credit scene. About its importance and the ramifications of that there. So like again, like so why did we need this? Like couldn't they have just saved that reveal for that end credit scene for whenever they're going to be introducing the two characters together?
Sure, they could absolutely have done it then, or now we know, so they don't have to like go and do this whole long elaborate thing to introduce Venom. They could bring him into the fray a whole lot sooner if they wanted.
They could have just
movie.
Put that exact scene into the movie. Bam, explained. It's done.
Sure, they could do that, but now instead of it being rushed in the movie, now it's like, okay, we know this is already going to happen, so we want it to happen faster.
It would be rushed.
Maybe, I don't know, but that takes it out of play. That's all I'm saying. But I loved it because it's like, oh my God, now we know this is going to happen. And for me, Wes, like when I go and see the X-Men movies, or when I went and saw Venom originally, I'm not going and seeing them and expecting, okay, like we're going to get a better, we're going to get something that ties into the MCU, because we know this stuff doesn't tie into the MCU. Although now we see that Eddie Brock and Tom Hardy are going to go and be in the MCU. I'm stunned that Tom Hardy is going to go doing it. So I'm not worried about that kind of thing necessarily. Like, what does it all mean with this stuff? Because it's just we're not supposed to get that.
It's not even it's just the direction that they chose to go in, or the lack of any direction that I felt like there was no direction to this movie at all. But without further hemming and hawing here, let's just get right into the exam survey questions. How about that? And then we'll answer all of the burning questions that we have there. But first, what was the most rewatchable scene, if there was one?
So, okay, I felt that the Carnage Venom fight was one of them. And then I think the other one had to be Carnage's escape from prison. That's the one that's going to get my vote in all this, because Carnage is supposed to be this character, and I thought they executed this perfectly. Carnage is supposed to be a character that's all about violence, nonstop, complete chaos, and just wants to watch the world burn, period. I mean, it's like a demon, essentially, right? And that is exactly what we got with this character. And he is supposed to be gruesome and violent. There's a reason people wanted this to be an R-rated movie, and we'll talk about that a little bit more later.
Doesn't that ruin like how the depiction of the character?
Well, in some ways it could, but they did one thing that I thought they did.
He's a serial killer who can't show blood.
Right. And I get that. But I think that part where they did well to hide that, I guess, where like with Lord of the Rings, right? You go and have these up close action shots and like, violence and whatever, and you don't see that much blood, or it's like really dark. So it just looks like it's all black and whatever, right? So it doesn't look like blood. You have like the orcs, right? Who gives a shit about that violence? But with this, it's you're not seeing that necessarily quite as up close most of the time. So I feel like that kind of masks it. And then of course, Carnage versus Venom protects that as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll default to whatever you want on this one. There's nothing redeemable about this for me.
Right. Yeah. You're not good. Yeah. I understand that. And that's fine. But you didn't have a nominee for this, actually. Yeah.
No, because there's nothing. I'll never rewatch this movie again.
How can you, when you're giving it an 68, like, how can you say something was rewatchable? I totally don't blame you for that. You'd be lying if you had something to watch.
Yeah. I mean, I could make something up, I guess.
Do you have something for what will age the best?
Dr. Dan, I thought aged really well. I thought he was pretty funny. I thought that was good. The mid-credit scene, obviously, I think this was probably a good space to talk about that. Of course, we're going full spoilers here.
Right. Yes. So I loved it. I mean, like when it happened at the end, I didn't know where it was going, and then as the little bit of shakeup, and then it's like, holy shit, they're going to do it. Wes, I don't know about you, but I wasn't thinking we're going to see Tom Hardy's Venom necessarily in there, because Sony's just been such a pain in the ass the entire time. Not because like Kevin Feige didn't necessarily want him to do it. It's just like they've been problematic the entire time. So I just thought, oh, maybe we're not going to see Venom in Morbius for a while. But now we are.
Yeah, and it seems like it's weird, right? Because they created this like Sony Spider-Man universe, and even like rebranded their naming for it, like the DCU, the MCU. I think it's like the Spider-Man villain universe or something like that. It's something related to Spider-Man exclusively. So it would just make sense after like whatever money has to get shifted around to make this deal happen, that it was going to be a crossover event in the making. Like you said, I think it was just a matter of time. But again, like we've been talking about who this Sinister Sixth member is. And I wonder at the introduction, because of course you have to think about the timeline, right? Because whenever this multiversal event happens and Eddie Brock switches universes right into what we think is the Earth 616 timeline with Tom Hollander. Is that a No Way Home scenario? Is that something that's going to be like further down the road for Multiverse of Madness, say?
Yeah, maybe. I think I wonder if, I don't think he's going to be that sixth villain, because Venom, right? Because the way Eddie Brock's kind of approaching things, they don't have him and Peter Parker don't necessarily have this rivalry.
Well, he has been seen with the Spider-Man No Way Home, movie hat and everything like that. There's been a lot of bromance between the two Toms.
Mm-hmm. And I think he'll be in the movie. That's not what I'm saying. I just don't think he's going to end up being the sixth villain. I think he could end up helping out. But then at the end, maybe Venom's like, I hate this guy. I don't want to work with him anymore, whatever. Or maybe he wins him over. I don't know. But I think it's going to be a little bit different. And maybe they could do Carnage and some from a different universe, or there's other routes that they can maybe go in this. But I don't think Venom's going to end up being that sixth member of the Sinister Six. But I think we're in agreement. He'll be in that movie. There's no two ways about it.
And rightfully so, that's getting all the attention, right? The switching of the multiverse, and that's not him and everything. But what's get kind of lost in that whole aspect of the conversation prior to that between Venom and Eddie saying, like, I have a billions years worth of hive mind knowledge that would blow your mind if I told you, here's a glimpse of it. Like, what is that? What is that going to be talking about? And of course, there's supposed to be some connections with like Gore the God Butcher and his necromancer sword or something like that. That's supposed to be symbiotic and some relation to that. So I wonder what that exactly means, and if we in Venom 3, do you get more of an explanation of like the Venom parasites backstory?
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be done with the symbiotes, and I don't think we've seen the last of Carnage either. Obviously, in that particular universe, you're not going to see him again.
I hope there's no more Woody Harrelson.
Well, either way, I think we're going to see quite a bit more of Carnage, because what they did with him in the actual comics with Donny Cates over the past couple of years with King and Black, there is a lot to be done there with Venom, with Carnage, and with Null, in the symbiotes and everything. So I would love to see some of that, because it's like that was such an awesome event.
Well, so when you say on the list here for what will age the best, you mentioned Carnage, he's going to be showing up later. So when you say what will age the best? Like, are you saying like the character is going to have an opportunity to grow later on, or like the performance from the movie is what will age the best?
When we talk about what will age the best and worst with these, there's two ways that we can always take it, from the individual movie and then from, like a larger picture. With this, I am talking about the larger picture for Carnage. I think that he's absolutely good. The character is going to, there are people who are going to like this character that maybe didn't necessarily know much about him before, hadn't been exposed to him, whatever. And now it's like, I want to see more of this guy. And if you get him in the MCU's hand in any capacity, because now it seems like you can't really bring him in the Sonyverse anymore. He's gone, right? They killed Cletus Cassidy off. So if you go and bring in a different actor or different Cletus, whatever it is from a different universe, now we can see him in the MCU more, and he'll absolutely, I don't have any doubt he'll be better there. So that's how he's going to age better.
Yeah, I hope so. Again, like the whole Carnage thing just really disappoints me. When I was like kind of alluding to in my first description, saying like they were on the cusp of some very interesting things. It was almost like they wanted to take Cletus Cassidy in almost like a True Detective like way, with like a sadistic kind of culty religious aspects to him, that he speaks in these like weird, disjointed, above the ear fugazi type big thought. You know what I mean? Like, doesn't really make sense, but they kind of do make sense. I thought that was very interesting about him, but then they just ended up like opting for this like campy 80s movie kind of thing that I don't think really fit. And I think if they went darker and fully dark, hard R, like that's what I think could have really brought this out.
When I look at the points that I took off for this movie, I think one of the biggest things is how they ended up writing Cletus. It annoyed me that they killed him. But then when we see, okay, this is not the complete end of Cletus Cassidy. Okay, that's fine. However, when I see that like he's not just like him and Carnage are kind of at odds, like, well, him and then the whole thing with Toxin too. I mean, like she's like. Sorry, with them. We'll get to that in a second. With Shriek, thank you. Like I was a little confused by that, but in the end, it's like they mesh. Like him and Carnage are supposed to mesh better. Like it's supposed to be just as happy a marriage as Venom and Eddie Brock. So I was a little frustrated by that. And Carnage is, Cletus is just supposed to be this mindless killer. Like, well, let me rephrase that. He's supposed to just love violence. Obviously, he's very smart. So I don't like that. There's too much like humanity to him, but I think that's a product of today's like climate with villains. Now, I understand.
And again, they're trying to make money out of it, right? But again, if you want, you can go dark, like you saw, like Joker was that dark type of thing. I think what we're going to see with the Batman, Matt Reeves, and the the Joker, that portrayal there is going to be dark there. So I think you can still do that and make money off of it, but. You mentioned him being kind of like a cold-blooded kind of mindless killer, not thinking twice about it. Like, we don't really see that. That's just kind of told to us, his whole backstory through this like animated, flip a book type of thing. Like, and I'm like, that's such a horrible, we talk about this all the time, like show, don't tell. And I feel like this movie, in terms of Carnage, just told us everything about the best parts of him. And then like the yada yada of the best parts.
That's, what, Wes? I think that's a fair point. Although I wouldn't want to see too much of Kid Carnage necessarily. I do think that's a fair point when you talk about how they develop the character and everything.
It's like the product of the 97-minute runtime and introducing again what is kind of like a cultish, iconic character that people really wanted to see, on the big screen, live action stuff.
So real quick, to time out from what will age the best. I just want everybody to know, for those who listen to our show primarily and don't watch it, when we watch it, we have our little ticker. If you watch it, we have a ticker at the end of at the bottom of our screen, and Wes always puts a little thing in there. And I got to say, Wes, this may be my favorite one that you've ever done.
Oh, that was from last week.
Was it?
Yeah, we were talking about actors who did multiple roles. What did Han Solo name his clone? Han Duo.
Yes.
So a little funny stuff on the Google machine that pops up there for us. But
I thought you came up with it yourself, and I'm just going to.
No, you're right. I did. But a great reason to watch us aside from our smiling faces.
Right. Of course.
So you mentioned Carnage. You've already touched on a little bit about Shriek, but you've alluded to Toxin and Detective Mulligan. And I loved the actor. The actor's name I'm blanking on. What's his name that we have? Stephen Graham.
Yep.
He's from Boardwalk Empire, right? He played
I gotta watch that.
Chicago gangster there. But
Capone?
He played Al Capone.
Oh.
Really, I like that actor a lot. He's got like a short Napoleon type tough guy complex. I kind of dig it.
Yeah, I need to watch that show. I tried watching it years back, and then I wasn't like, it was before I was really into shows, I think, at that point.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I
yeah.
got to give that one a shot. That's HBO, right? Not Showtime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
HBO.
So with Detective Mulligan, you see at the end, right, with his eyes, right, we see like they turn blue or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
This is Toxin. This character turns into Toxin at some point. I'm wondering if this is who we're going to see as the sixth villain because of what they teased there. You could absolutely do it. And you see with Carnage right now, I know that Venom brought up how Carnage is a red one, right? And how it's
that would kind of be a letdown, though, wouldn't it?
It might be a letdown, but Toxin's a tough motherfucker, and he's like like when you talk about the symbiotes that we see the most in Marvel comics, it's Venom, it's Carnage, and then Toxin would be number 3 on that list.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. So, but still, he's not as much like he's very strong and everything. Don't get me wrong, but like Carnage and Venom are the two that like they're on a different level in terms of familiarity. But with Carnage, like this is so with symbiotes, the offspring is stronger than the parent, which is why Carnage, is an issue for Venom. Toxin is then Carnage's offspring. So you can understand how much
exponentially stronger when they die. Yeah, it's interesting there. Yeah. And while we're on this too, because there's, there's no connective tissue here, but that's something that I really love about all these Marvel and comic book movies. So again, it's all these little implications and Easter eggs. And one of the things that kind of piggyback off of what you were saying was Carnage's origin story. Kind of being a mirror opposite of Spider-Man Peter Parker's origin story, where he bites Venom, Eddie Brock, and tastes the blood, much like the spiders biting Peter Parker. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
You have Cletus killing the spider, and the way, of course, getting his powers. Venom doing his Spider-Man skyscraper hangout, all these little Easter egg things.
Yeah.
Brock writing for the Daily Bugle. The exact same Daily Bugle from Raimi's Spider-Man.
A lot of winks at the audience in this, which I enjoyed that.
Yes.
The Bugle one was awesome. I love that shit.
Eddie's separation from Venom when they kind of break up there, eerily similar to Spider-Man 2 scene where Peter gives up the suit and he just starts enjoying like menial things like going to class and like Eddie Brock isn't really doing anything better with his life. He just buys another expensive TV.
Yeah, exactly.
He's not really doing anything.
Yeah.
But again, that's the stuff that I liked. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I know you're going to have more. You actually highlighted, I think, everything when it comes to what will age the worst. So why don't you tell me what you got?
Yeah, I mean, first and foremost, I think just not being rated R. And again, I don't know what the direction of this movie is. Is this a soft sequel or a reboot?
I thought this was a sequel.
Because at the end of Venom, and where we just did the rewatch vault of Venom, this is a little bit more fresh in my mind. At the end of it, they agree to hunt and kill only the bad people. So you think this is going to be the start of like some vigilante hero, anti-hero type of run with Venom and Eddie Brock. But that just never happens. Like in Venom 2, they're just not doing any of that. At all.
That's a fair point, Wes.
And at the end of Venom 2, they're like, okay, now we're going to actually do it.
Yeah, and it's in what they could have easily done to address that in the writing, because this is a really good point on your part. Like, why not just say we tried that and it doesn't work? Like, we're not doing it, and then you can go recant on it at the end. It would take.
Okay, now I'm ready to go do it. Right?
Yeah.
Like, that seems very easy to do. But again, like having that so fresh in my mind from doing the rewatch vault, I was like, what's going? Like, why are we wasting so much time with them being like just going about their everyday life? You know what I mean? I wasn't a big fan of that.
Mm-hmm. The rated R thing is a very good point. I think everybody thought that kind of going. It's like, how are you going to tell the story of Carnage and not have it be super violent? I thought they did a good job with it, but yeah, I would have liked to see it be rated R.
I mean, it was I remember they released it, as the PG-13 rating, and everyone, that was a huge letdown, huge disappointment when that came out on Twitter and everything like that. But
this shit would be nuts, man. Like that, you saw what they did with the character, and then you add the blood and guts to it. It's gonna be like, it's gonna be crazy if they do that.
No, it was definitely some cool things, some cool kills. Like I love the idea of like Carnage just throwing the car off the bridge, just because they could, just because they wanted to. Stuff like that, like the tongue lashing, killing through the body.
Oh God, the first tongue, when we saw his like tongue like dragging on the floor, whatever it was, like that was there's a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
But all of Shriek's lines, I liked Shriek. I thought the actress was really good too. Let me get her name here too to get this right. Naomi Harris. You see her in like the Hollywood red carpet. Like you Google image her, looks nothing like she did. I mean, really transformed in the role there. But I thought she was really good, except I thought the lines that she was given were so horrible, cliche. Like, what's the first thing that she says? Like, she's like, what do they say about an eye for an eye? Or like, any last words? And then like she comes in and like it's like these classic campy villain, like horrible one-liners.
Okay, so I agree with you, but
that's probably a comic book thing, though, right?
Well, I agree with you. No, it's not that. I agree with you for different reasons. I think when you look at how the character was captured and then held in captivity forever, and she's not allowed to grow and develop as a human being, it makes sense that she would go and be like that. However, I think that this is a really cool character who doesn't necessarily deserve that kind of treatment because we saw how powerful her voice is. She makes Banshee look like a little kid. So I think she deserves way more than that in the way she was written and the decisions that they made with her. So it makes sense in how they did it. I just don't like that decision. And I understand like to some extent, like, you got to accept the art and how it is or whatever, but we've seen that character done in other ways. And I think when we see her in the MCU, if we do, she's going to be a lot better there. And we could see her. We saw the bell land on her, but we didn't technically see her dead.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like, we got to see the body. We got to see the body before we got to be convinced there, right?
Always.
No, and I liked the dynamic. Again, it's something I thought they were close to kind of hitting on as a cool idea, but just never really fully executed it, was the dynamic between Shriek and her powers and interacting with Cletus, the lover, and the symbiote Carnage, which is like the exact opposite, like oil and water type of mixture there. Mm-hmm. And I would have liked to have seen that explored a little bit more. We know that those two are like, star-crossed and kind of all for each other. The only two people they have in the world that are like very passionately crazy about one another. But I don't know. I would have liked to seen that dynamic pretty more without Carnage just kind of being like a redneck guy with like, what I mean? It's like, just shut up, woman, do what you're told. That's kind of like what he's doing the whole time,
Yeah, and actually, that brings us over to what we both thought of Cletus Cassidy. Of course, as much as this is a Venom movie, everybody's most excited about what we're going to get.
Real quick, Venom's teenage act of defiance, that was so awful too. It will age the worst. That might be my vote. Like him just going through there, like that was just hanging out in the Venom corpse, going body to body, killing people, and like, why?
I think that I'm with you on the Shriek one. So we're in disagreement here, but I do understand you. Like all these are fair points and what will age the worst. But I think
it's a waste of time.
But not being rated R too, that's that might be the best one. But
hey, everyone's a winner. Maybe we just add all of the above.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, D, all of the above. So anyways, before I cut you off, before I apologize, I was getting to what we thought of Cletus Cassidy. Of course, this is the reason, as much as, it was a Venom movie, we want to see this. Everybody's been clamoring for Carnage. That's what we want. They teased it and everything at the end of the first movie. It would have made no sense if you didn't bring this guy in the next one. And I was upset when they killed him at first. I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, Carnage is, I understand Venom winning, but you can't just kill Carnage. And I get that you're going to have people who watch this and say, like, oh, you're going to let him get off easy and Venom's not going to kill him, blah, blah, blah. No, bullshit. Like, there should be a reason that there should be a way you write it where Carnage doesn't die. However, when we see the mid-credit scene go and kind of wipe it all away, it's like, okay, we can still get Carnage again at some point. Fine. I'm willing to accept that in some universes, Venom already killed Carnage. I'm okay with that. I thought that Carnage looked great. And I mentioned it before. I just wish that they kept Cletus as more of like a maniac who was just hell-bent on killing everybody, and that's all he really cared about, and creating as much chaos, as opposed to like the family dynamic and doing what they did with like Thanos, where it's like, okay, I get it with Thanos, but I don't need that with Cletus Cassidy.
You don't need to humanize a serial killer.
No, he's a monster, and I understand it's like stuff that happened to you when you're younger or whatever, but like there can be exceptions to the rules. We don't need to have everybody be like this dynamic villain. Like, just let him be a monster, please.
Right. No, I agree. Again, I thought there were some cool concepts. They were very close to the cusp with him kind of being this like a Charles Manson type of guy who speaks very like he's like on acid, has done acid too many times. But they never really get to anything that any of his real motivations. Like, why did he choose Eddie Brock?
Yeah.
Was that really fully expanded? They said like we're very similar, and they say he says like something about knowing why his mother or his like father left Eddie as a child or something like that. But they never get to how he knows that.
I felt like they talked about it quite a bit. I didn't get a hang up on that in the movie. And believe me, as much as I came up with a high grade, like I was looking for Like,
Yeah, I don't know. And I was just again, I thought that kind of bothered me. The whole thing with Brock's like rise to stardom through these like freelance stories that he's doing, finding all the serial killers. Like I don't know, like how would that really happen? Like we don't really see him freelancing. We don't really see him working at all. It's just like I'm going to start doing this, and someone's again, it all just felt very rushed.
Well, that's because we know what happens with freelancers too. We look at the business and everything.
Yeah, man. Nothing happens that fast. We all know that.
Never. It's full of shit. But yeah. So like I did not hate how they wrote Cletus. I thought I was frustrated with some things, but and that's probably where like how they handled him. I like Carnage. Like there's a difference. I like Carnage. Cletus frustrated me a couple times, but I actually didn't hate Woody Harrelson's performance. I know you sound like you didn't like him too much, but I just felt there were certain moments, like important moments, where they just the way they wrote it I was like, they should have done this a little bit differently with that character.
Yeah, I think they were very close to it, and it just almost makes me wonder. Like Andy Serkis can't be that bad. Like it just makes me wonder that he was hamstrung by the production studio and the rating and stuff like that. And I wonder if there's a Serkis cut lying around there somewhere.
Well, okay, I don't. Okay, who is it that also it was the Thor director, right? Thor: The Dark World director now wants to get out of my face with that shit. I don't want that with the MCU. I don't want that with this. We got it once with Snyder.
I'm not serious about that.
No, I know you're not. I'm saying it to everybody else. Like, do not make this an actual thing. Snyder was under like extenuating circumstances with his family and everything, and how that was handled by WB was not well done. So I had no problem getting that in the end, as much as that whole fan base is kind of toxic. I don't need it with everybody else. So that's it. Whatever we get is what we get. If you want to make an extended cut like Lord of the Rings did, or they did with Anchorman 2, right? Do it with the DVDs or the streaming versions of it. That's fine. I don't care at that point. But you bring up Serkis too, and
I agree. The BVS Ultimate too. That's a good. No, that's a better watch though. They didn't make a big deal of it. They just released it on demand or streaming and just made it happen. Yeah,
just do that. I'm 100% fine with that. What's the next for us? Is it Who Lost the Movie?
Yeah, I think this is perfect. Cause my choice was Andy Serkis. Again, I just wonder. It's like I love Andy Serkis, Gollum, right? Who is he? Why am I?
He's King Kong, I believe, as well too.
Oh yeah, but he's also Claw, right?
Give me a second.
Claw.
Oh yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
So I like everything he's in. He seems like a fun guy. He actually seems like a fun guy to hang out with.
He's
maybe not a big King Kong, but he was also Planet of the Apes, right?
Caesar. He was right. He was a King Kong at some point. I just can't remember if it was the last one or if it was the Peter Jackson version, which would make more sense.
Maybe the Peter Jackson. I think that, yeah.
Yeah, but okay, I legitimately thought the opposite of this coming out of this movie, Wes. Like, I understand the frustrations where you're like, it doesn't, what does it mean? Why do we need to get this and then lead into the rest of the MCU stuff? Like, I understand your point there, but we're talking about a bunch of CGI stuff, which I know for you is going to take you out of the movie. It is a CGI mishmash and blah, blah, blah. All that's
him, right? Yeah.
Right. That is him. Yeah. And if you think the CGI in this movie was better or worse than the original Venom?
No, I thought it was. I thought the CGI mishmash battle at the end wasn't nearly as bad as the first one.
So I liked it even more, like I quite a bit. And I thought this, to me, like that's where Andy Serkis, that's what you're kind of bringing him in for. Like, you say what you want about the other stuff, that's fine. But when I see, okay, he did this well, and the critics may not like it, but fans like this movie. Well, it's not necessarily an MCU movie. It's going to have more superhero movies, fine, blah blah blah, whatever. I care about, okay, we got a guy who can kind of make I understand he's not doing the literal special effects, but he's definitely got a hand in this shit. So that to me is like, okay, you're going to see him pop up on other stuff, I would think, because that component of this movie was well done, and that's his specialty.
See, I think this is going to be like an Amazing Spider-Man 2 level like movie, like fan four stick, something like that. Like a very forgettable like X2, X3.
X3. Oh, you're gonna put this on the same level as X3 and Spider-Man 2? Oh man! I mean, if you want to say
Amazing Spider-Man.
Okay, Amazing Spider-Man 2. If you said Amazing Spider-Man, that'd be fine because that one was solid. Like, that's a solid movie. I don't know if we'll ever do that.
I didn't like that, but I like that movie. I didn't like this one though.
I don't see how this is on the level of those. I mean, we got to do the worst.
I just think it's going to be forgettable. Yeah, I just don't think, like, aside from the end credit scene, like, I don't think there's much to take home with this.
It depends on when we get Carnage again, because people like Carnage. Like Spider-Man fans like Carnage 100%. I mean,
What if it's a situation like we were talking about with our last week episode, right? Actors who did multiple comic book roles, like with Ryan Reynolds, like the Green Lantern, that hasn't been done yet. That was so bad. You know what I mean? Sometimes like you get like such a bad reaction to things, and maybe my reaction isn't the plurality. Stuff, but
I think you're towards the lower end of it, Wes. But I still think that there's definitely a group of people who agree with you. But at the same time, do you remember how bad that was? Green Lantern.
Yeah.
You're telling me that was that? Okay.
I didn't think it was good.
But you gave it. What would you give the Green Lantern? Like I know we're not rewatching it. It's been a long time, but that was terrible.
Yeah, at least Blake. That was like Blake Lively in her prime.
I don't care. I'm not giving it a good grade because Blake Lively's in the friggin' movie. Like that was terrible.
You gave 3 extra points to this for an end credit scene.
I mean, because it connects it to the MCU. It's a lot more important for the quality of a movie other than just having an attractive woman on.
They could have released a YouTube video on that.
Sure, I guess they could have. It wouldn't have been the same. You would not have liked it in that capacity. And I cannot believe you're saying that this is worse on the same level as Green Lantern, that it'll impact.
No, what I was saying about Green Lantern is that it took so long. Like they're just afraid to do the character again. Like I'm afraid that they're not going to want to touch Carnage for a while.
No, I'd bet money that they'll touch
let this breathe a little bit. You know,
I'll bring it back to our earlier conversation. I'll put money on this one with you. Like that Carnage will be back and he'll be in the MCU.
I'm not disagreeing with you, Nick. I'm just saying I just don't think it'll be that like as quick. I think you're gonna see some time between it.
Okay. Oh, okay. You might see some time in between it. That's fine. But like Green Lantern, it feels like they're gonna bring in John Stewart.
Yeah, like you have to imagine like at some point they're gonna bring in Green Lantern to the DCEU. Like that's another tentpole. Like I think at some point it's gonna happen. But it's been 20 years.
It's been 15. It's been something like 15. It's been a long ass time, and they might bring Stewart in before they bring in Hal Jordan too. So, but yeah, I don't. Yeah, so I don't. It may be a while, but I don't think it's going to be that long. I would be stunned. I mean, that's a kick-ass character, but you got the X-Men too, so maybe there's a lot of characters. But
yeah, and Carnage was the other one too, for all the reasons that we already spoke about.
Right, and then Shriek is the one who I think loses the movie and all this, because I just feel like you go and take this cool character and then you kind of turn her into like, yeah, she helped in some capacities and created problems, but I just felt like she was so underwritten in this movie. Yeah. It was not the actress's fault at all. I just felt like you talk about the lines and stuff like that. She felt like more of a nuisance in some ways for Carnage at the end of it, and I get why, but you just felt like you didn't do it well.
Yeah, it was weird. The wedding thing, I don't know. Again, everything just felt so forced and like pushed through. It was a shotgun wedding of a movie.
Best performance by a side character.
I like Detective Mulligan. Again, I like the Stephen Graham as an actor there. But that's kind of me. I don't think that's. I want to say that's. He doesn't look like a Stephen Graham. I feel like I might have wrote that name wrong. I don't know.
Okay, I'll try and look that up real quick. Who was the other nominee that you had?
Dr. Dan, the aforementioned Dr. Dan. We've said this a couple of times. He's kind of funny. He gets a little bit of due. Venom even turns around on him a little bit. They like him, Mrs. Chen probably gets an honorable mention in this. Yes. She kind of comes back around.
They did that shit with her eyes. That was friggin' terrifying. That was
cool CGI.
Nightmare fuel with that. It is Stephen Mulligan, by the way, who plays Detective Mulligan.
He doesn't look like a Stephen. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
But I liked him. I wasn't like head over heels for him. But it's still the potential of Toxin and everything is really cool. But I think if we're talking about performances and everything, I think I got to give it to Dr. Dan on this.
Yeah, that's the other thing about like the movie getting rushed through, and I'm happy we're in agreement on something there, by the way. But the Detective Mulligan and Eddie Brock tension, like in the comic books, right? They kind of like Eddie Brock kind of screws him over a couple of times, right? And we don't really see why they don't like each other, why they're working with one another. Again, he's a freelance reporter who's like probably collecting unemployment. You know what I mean? Like, why is the FBI calling him and pulling him into it?
I felt like that was pretty. I think that was pretty self-explanatory. Like they brought him in because Carnage, because Cassidy wanted to talk to him, and then it's like, okay, you're the only person that he wants to talk to, so that's why we're getting involved with you. And then he goes and screws them over because he said Mulligan.
I guess so. Yeah.
Mulligan told him, tell me if you get anything, and then he goes and that whole thing happens on TV, and he was not part of it. So
I guess it goes back to why Brock. I guess that's what it boils down to. But I guess that you explained. I forgot that part.
Well, either way, but when it comes down to who won the movie, we have two candidates here. Mine is Spider-Man fans because Venom is coming, Carnage has arrived, and Toxin should be in some capacity in the future plans.
Yeah, I think definitely on the first bullet.
Oh, okay.
Definitely on the first bullet.
Okay. Well, who's your nominee for this?
I think the only option is Tom Hardy, and I heard someone compare him to be like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, where it's a great casting that hasn't really been placed in like the perfect movie yet. I know X2 is good, but up until Logan, he never really got that chance to really stand out in a movie. But the only problem that I kind of see that comparison. Like Hardy is heavily involved with these movies, much like Hugh Jackman wasn't involved in like the Brett Ratner X-Men movies here. Like he has his hands, he's doing a lot of the cooking in the kitchen here with the writing and the production and everything. It makes me like, I don't know. It makes me a little bit worried about things.
So if I was someone like Goo who's very passionate about voice actors, right? If I was someone like that, where that really, really bothered me, my grade would have probably dropped like by 5 points from what it was. And again, I added 3 points because of the mid-credit scene. So that would have put me in the 70s, really, realistically. Because when you listen to Tom Hardy, there are quite a few times where his accent goes like all over the fucking place. And it happens in Venom. And in this movie, though, specifically, in the second one.
I didn't pick up on that. Of all the things that bothered me, like that one never popped up on my radar. That's funny.
And I think you brought up before, watching the original recently, it like Lauren brought it to my attention as we're watching it. I was like, oh, I'm like you. Normally that's not something we notice. But now it's on my radar. And then I'm watching him in this one. And at one point, he like almost goes full fucking Bane, which is funny. But it's still like, what are you doing? Like, this is like, I get you're turning too much. Maybe it's because he's turning too much into Venom because he's together. That's the only reason why. It's part of why I wouldn't take as many points off it. But again, like that's something that like bugged me a little bit. But then it's kind of like whatever. I move on from it in the end. But whoever said that they're comparing him to Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, first of all, he had X2. The original X-Men movie was revolutionary for comic movies.
Yeah, but no, we're in agreement that the movie is revolutionary, but it's just not a good. Like you don't go back and watch that. There's a lot of campiness to it. It's a good movie for the time.
It came out in 2000. It's not an MCU movie, and I would never make that argument. I think the Wolverine is solid, and I think and then it's solid. I'm not gonna say it's good or great. It's solid. I don't know what I give it for a grade. I haven't rewatched it in a while, but yes, of course, Logan.
Yeah, that's really had a good movie.
But my thing is in all this, Wes, is you like to put Tom Hardy, who's solid as Venom. Don't get me wrong, I don't dislike him, but Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is an all-time casting, period. As much as we didn't know who he was in the beginning and everything like that, right? Who Hugh Jackman was, like he is on the same level as Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. As I don't want to put Ian McKellen in there necessarily as much as he was great, but
Ryan Reynolds. Time also has a big factor in this as well. Like your commitment to be like getting to the character and just kind of morphing into it. Like
yeah. Sure, but I thought Hugh Jackman took to the character like day one, just like Ryan Reynolds and just like Chris Evans to an extent, I would say too, and then like Robert Downey Jr. I would not put Tom. I would not put Tom Hardy on this level.
I'm just saying that's what the YouTube people are talking.
Well, I disagree with the YouTube people, but whatever.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think that's all we have for Venom 2.
Yeah, I guess. I don't even want to say that Tom Hardy, like no one really won this movie. The movie theaters won for taking my money.
Yeah, I was again. Yeah, so we'll vote for Spider-Man.
$20 down the drain for a 90-second end credit scene. That's pretty much what I paid for.
Did you go by yourself?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. I haven't. I it's such an awesome experience.
Your wife doesn't want to go see Venom 2. Like, funny, I was like waiting in line, going to see a buddy. Like I run into a buddy who I haven't seen. I'm like, hey, what are you gonna go see? And he's like, Adam's Family 2. He's like, I'm here with my wife and her kid or something like that, And I'm like, yeah, I'm about to go see Venom 2. It's probably going to be worse than that. Like, I'd probably rather go see Adam's Family.
Oh, stop it!
I was very disappointed.
I know you were. Well, we can let off a little steam by heading into Discharge Depot then.
Yes, all aboard. Rant.
Okay, so a couple of the things that I watched. Finally saw the movie Rear Window, which is obviously a Hitchcock classic. I actually saw Psycho recently. I'd never seen either of these movies before.
Wow.
I knew what happened in Psycho. I mean, everybody knows what happens in Psycho. I mean, and of course, there's the Vince Vaughn remake too, which I've never watched, never will. But more importantly, I watched Midnight Mass on Netflix. This just dropped, and this has one of the actors who appeared in The Newsroom, which is an HBO show. Really like him a lot. But otherwise, it's a lot of actors I'm not familiar with. There is one cameo in there that's really funny, and I don't want to say anything because it kind of spoils. Like why it's funny kind of spoils things for people, but I really, really enjoyed this. It's a 7-episode limited series that's like 40 minutes to an hour long. I can't remember the exact times on these, Wes, but it's in that range.
Okay.
And it's a lot about cult stuff, Catholicism stuff, and complete mayhem. And it's all located on this one small island. So if you like horror, if you like suspense, there's definitely some scary moments in there where it's like it borders on horror, but it's like not full blown, like not slasher and shit. But I really love this. I highly recommend to anybody who's looking for scary stuff in Dorktober.
I love it. That's awesome. And before I move with my things and happenings recently, let's check in on something that you've done. What was the Big E like a few weekends back?
It was good. I went to did we talk about this already?
No, I thought you said you were going to the Big E. Not that you went, right?
Oh, maybe I didn't make good on that. I got a caricature done of Lauren.
Oh, you did. That's right. You did say that. Okay,
yes.
My bad.
Okay,
right.
Okay, yes.
All right, so it was good. It was a good time then.
Yeah.
Other than that, my memory is just bad. That's all. I officially cut the cord.
Did you?
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Cut the cord. It's great. I love it. It's amazing. I love the layout. You go on YouTube TV. So I almost had a little scare with the Pats game. That got worked out.
Wait, why'd there be a scare with the Pats game?
There was something with NBC, some dispute with NBC and YouTube. They got it figured out.
I'm glad they figured it out because Nesson. I can't watch Red Sox games now. The playoffs are around. Thank God. But I can't watch.
I should be able to do that now, right? With the playoffs and TBS and.
Yep, that is the one thing. But I have MLB TV, Doc has it, so I'm able to watch all other baseball stuff. But I can't watch Red Sox live. It's so frustrating.
You've also cut the cord.
Yeah, I have YouTube TV as well. I've had that. Yeah, I thought we talked
awesome.
about that.
I don't know. Yeah, it's
Wait, so why would you remember something like that?
Yeah, I can't remember anything.
Well, why would you? That's something stupid to remember, anyways. But yeah, I've had it since I've lived here, and I think my parents have it too. But it's just. Yeah, that's the one thing. Is like you can't watch Bruins.
$65 a month. That's great. Oh, the Nesson. Yeah, that's tough. Yeah.
No Bruins, no Red Sox, and it's very frustrating. But I like just watching baseball. Period. So I don't give a shit if it's the Red Sox. I'll watch.
You get the Celtics still too, right?
You still get the Celtics, and that is the one sport where it's like I want to watch that team specifically.
With just new house life and things of that such. I came across something and I need clarification.
Oh boy,
what do you describe? It's something that has one wheel in the front. You put a bunch of stuff in it, then you lift it up on the one wheel, and you can move it around to like.
Oh God!
What is that called?
Oh, Wes, shit! Are you talking about like in the yard?
Yeah,
a wheelbarrow.
Is it a wheel barrel or a wheelbarrow?
I definitely say wheelbarrow, like RROW. But I think it's that. I'm going to say it's that. It's the wheelbarrow.
Final answer? You feel good about that?
Final answer. I'm not feeling good about it, no.
I think you're right. You should feel good about it. You are right, because I have always said a wheel barrel. It is barrel of things that you put a wheel in. And I was like Googling it for whatever reason as I was trying to find one in Home Depot. And I'm like, if auto-corrected to wheelbarrow. And I'm like, what? I was that many days old when I found out the difference between that. Yeah,
I will say
this is the Raider.
Yeah. Well, how often do you like wheelbarrow? But I was second guessing myself too. But I also at first thought you were talking about like the thing where you like stack a bunch of boxes on it, but that has two wheels. So that's something totally different. I don't know what the fuck those things are called. It's like we use them when you're moving. But anyways.
A dolly?
A dolly. Thank you. That's what I was thinking. That's why I couldn't. Yeah, but no, wheelbarrow. So there we go.
Yeah, blew my mind. So the things you learn, when you get a house, things like that, the little things.
Change my mind is all about educating the people, if nothing else.
Change my mind on that word.
Absolutely. All right. It is time, Wes, for
This Week in Dork.
Shared Universe.
All right, Wes. Well, let's see. What is everybody doing this week?
Yes, hashtag Dork is doing Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Mac and Goo is doing Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage.
What?
The People for the Communism podcast is doing World War II, Let There Be Carnage.
That's fucked up. Those guys got such goddamn asses. I don't know why they're in our group.
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't know. It's tough time, you know.
Unbelievable
Tough time.
fucking bullshit. TLDR, we are doing our first omnibus because we're at our 50th mainline episode. We talked about it a little before in the comic book minute. What about What If? We talked about Marvel's What If. Would you listen a Marvel What If podcast?
Beautiful. We will be talking the season finale of season 1 there. Episode 9 is, of course, a continuation of episode 8, one of the few episodes to have that are not like an anthology type of episode here. So hopefully it will be good and end on a high note. Not many MCU shows have been able to do that, end on a high note. But so it would be kind of fitting and ironic that if a show that we've hated throughout the course of it really ends on a good high note, much like exact opposite of the other 3 shows.
I'm very excited to hear, like, to dig into this more with you because I want to know where you end up landing grading wise, because there have been some episodes that definitely feed into what you're looking for above all else, and then there have been some where you're just like, what the fuck am I watching? As we've highlighted throughout the course of the week. So are we definitely, I know I'm jumping ahead on
we got the notes. We got the notes. Yeah, and you got access to those too. So,
yeah, of course. Yeah. All right. So we're gonna do that next week. I'm very excited for that. I'm glad that we're doing that. I've heard it both ways. Of course, the Pineapple Boys are doing season 3, episode 7 of Psych this week, and then for these streamers, we have Doc and Shime over on Twitch, and then Davey is exclusively on YouTube on the hashtag Dork YouTube channel. So until next week, then, Wes.
And same bat time, same bat place.